Welcome back to The Blindsiders. This is the Swing Vote where I talk about the most pivotal moment in each and every episode of Survivor 50. And obviously, this episode is going to be about the swap, but in a larger sense, about how timing is everything, be it when the swap happens or when you pass information off to other players. So I was pretty sad to see Q go. Q is probably my favorite character from the new era of Survivor. He's endlessly entertaining, and I think he was playing a better game so far in 50 before the swap than he did in Survivor 46. But unfortunately, the swap came to take him out entirely. And I want to talk about the timing of the swap from Q's point of view. I was listening to an interview that he did with Rob Has a Podcast, and he said that they were going to, on the original Vatu tribe, throw a challenge and vote off either Aubrey or if they were spooked by Aubrey having the idol Angelina. So, Angelina could have possibly been gone here, and because of him kind of not really being high on Angelina, that got passed on to Emily, and then Emily went back to Angelina for it. So that squarely put her at odds with Q. Very unfortunate. Had one more round in their original tribes, presumably she gets voted off, and Q goes into a tribe swap with a vote. Unlike here, where only him and Steph were together, he didn't have a vote. Ozzy knew he didn't have a vote, which probably made him less likely to want to go with Q and be more open to working with Emily going forward. So, very bad timing all around for Q here in this episode, and unfortunate. Now, we have another major storyline of the season, possibly the storyline of the season, and that is Rick and Christian not telling Emily about sending the idol over to Aubrey until the very last moment before the swap. Like literally on the mat, right after Jeff tells them there's a swap happening, Christian whispers to Emily, "Hey, Aubrey has an idol." She had to be like, "Wait, what? How does she have an idol? Why am I just finding out about this now?" Christian obviously wanted her to use this information to her advantage should she end up on a tribe with Aubrey, in a kind of like, "Hey, I was with the people who gave you the idol," but because they didn't go to Emily sooner and they weren't able to get to her before they went to the challenge that ended up being the swap, ultimately Emily felt a little bit disregarded in her alliance. She felt like maybe she wasn't as strongly tied in to the other members of her alliance. Granted, this episode, she does vote with Christian. She votes with the David versus Goliath 3 plus Ozzy to vote off Q, leaving only Stephanie out on that tribe. But going forward, I don't think they would have shown us this particular scene if she was, not going to potentially have some trepidation around working with Christian and by extension Devins. So because their timing was not great, it was just, I guess, like blowing wide open their alliance that had really controlled the game up until this point. And I think we kind of saw how she wanted to vote off Ozzy both of the first two tribal councils they went to. And her alliance were like, no, obviously Cirie number one with Ozzy, so that wasn't going to happen. But you got to get the feeling that maybe she felt like, okay, they're not really listening to me here when I'm trying to throw out Ozzy's name. So maybe they don't really value my opinion that much. And then being told about Aubrey's idol at the very last minute, she certainly was like, okay, wait a second. They really don't, value me. And ironically, that pushes her into an alliance with Ozzy. Now, Ozzy's been very open about the fact that he needs help strategically in the game. And I think Emily is a good strategic player. Like, falter for her being a bit wishy washy or not having the strongest social game. But I do think when push comes to shove, she does have good ideas on when and who to vote people off. And I think that she could really work with Ozzy here. And the timing of them being swapped before she really went after Ozzy in a meaningful way. Like, Ozzy doesn't know that she was gunning for him at these other tribal councils, it seems. So Ozzy's very much like, okay, I want to work with you. And now they could be a very strong twosome headed forward. And hopefully they get to reconnect with Cirie at some point, who, I mean, Emily seemed pretty close to Cirie from what we saw over the last 3 episodes. So I don't know. It really seems like the timing of the swap has worked in Emily's advantage in the sense that she can now be more of a shot caller. We'll see what happens. I mean, are they really going to trust Christian to be with them when he has other David versus Goliath people? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Christian in like a scene of the White Lotus as a cameo, just like Angelina? Like, lifelong friends, harder to potentially go against. I know there's like, the RHAP connection and whatnot, Blood on the Clock Tower, all of that, but I would be a little nervous. So I would imagine Ozzy and Steph are gonna loop or Ozzy and Emily rather are going to loop Stephanie in, have a 3-3, and then Ozzy has an idol, maybe something happens there, or maybe they kind of force Christian's hand to be like, look, it's gonna be 3-3, go with your original alliance. And I think Stephanie would be open to working with them. I mean, she's just completely out on her own right now. So timing is everything in Survivor. Yeah, Q was a little swap screwed, but every time there's a swap, someone gets swap screwed. So we'll see what happens going forward. Tonight, 8 o'clock, live stream. Ben and I talking about the latest episode in depth. Make sure to check it out. Or if you're watching this after March 12th, go back in the VOD and watch it here on the Blindsiders channel. And other than that, thank you so much for checking out this episode of The Swing Vote. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying season 50.